What's up, everyone, and welcome to Tide Talk, the Rhode Island FC podcast that's for the fans, by the fans. I'm your host, Matt, and whether you're a day one sicko or new to RIFC, you found your home. Every episode, we're breaking down the latest from Rhode Island FC, the matches, the moments, the players, and everything happening in and around the club. Before we dive in, make sure you're following Tide Talk across all of our social media platforms. We're on Instagram, X, Facebook, TikTok, and everywhere else you scroll. Stay locked in for updates, exclusive content, and all things Rhode Island FC. If you're joining us on YouTube, please say hi and share your thoughts in the chat. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, please take a second to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. It helps us grow and bring you even better content every single week. All right, let's cozy up. Greg Bear, and dive into this one before I kick it to Ryan.
Hey, man, crack a cold one, man. Crack a cold one tonight.
Like Joe J said, crack a cold one. How's it going, buddy? Happy Sunday. Happy Masters Sunday.
Happy Masters. My guy Rory did it again, folks.
Unbelievable. Good stuff. How was your day? Changing diapers?
Yeah, a lot of diapers. Had some family over to, they just want to stay out of the baby. They don't care about me. But yeah, did that on a nice little walk. It was a really nice day. How was yours?
Yeah, pretty good. Made my Superliga coaching debut with Graham. Got absolutely whacked, but picked up some empanadas from La Sorpresa, headed over to the Guild after. They had fun. A bunch of the kids came too. So it was a grand old day, beautiful day. Zach bagged a hat trick in his first game this spring season. So good stuff.
That's incredibly unsurprising, but I like that you're coaching the kids both on and off the pitch, like making sure that they know ball enough on the pitch, but then they also know like where to get the best food in town, how to have a good time afterwards.
You have to start them young. I will say that we picked up, or Kelly picked up Guy in His Pie on the way home. First subpar performance from them. We got the chorizo, potato, and peppers special they had this week. Very dry. Needed more of a sauce, but surprising.
Listen, that's an anomaly, folks. The Guy in His Pie rules.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened
there. They do. But neither here nor there. But we, Ryan, as you tweeted out, get to have our first happy post-league match podcast of the season. Pretty exciting stuff.
Oh, I'm genuinely very excited. There will be no people are thinking one person is thinking we're going to doom on this one. I'm not going to doom on this one, folks. This is a good time.
You were just dooming on that keyboard in the opening as people called out in the chat.
I was honestly I have my notes for the episode. Like the nice thing about watching at home is you can sit there and just type notes, but I don't have them in one place for me to look at. So that was me very quickly attempting to reconcile things. Because as Matt knows, you will all be shocked to hear I showed up at actually like 8:30 on the dot. So
so people were saying that we got it in. It was tight, needed a VAR check on time. Definitely legitimately late on this one.
Folks, we're working on it here.
And the chat wants everyone to know Matt Hands is ridiculous. Call him out, Ryan. So we'll get to. I think we'll doom a little. We won't doom too hard, but I won't even say doom. We'll speak truths,
folks. It's a lovely day for Rhode Island. Okay, that's what this podcast is.
That's it. So
and
let's
as Matt
dive
Hands
in.
says, up the tide.
Up the tide, as always. Starting 11 for this one, we had Koke Vegas, Aldair Sanchez, Hugo Baccarat, Leo Afonso, JJ Williams, Pity Rodriguez, Clay Holstad, Frank Nodarce, Jojea Quazera, Karif Diao, and Hamidi Diop. Pretty much what you expected to see with Hugo coming back in and playing the defensive midfield role instead of Grant Stoneman.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big question going into this, and I think I said the exact same sentence last week, was like, are we going to stick with this? What feels like a back four formation, and I think it's a back four formation with, Quazera more playing as a right winger versus like a wing back. So yeah, really excited about that. And then to play it, obviously we saw Grant Stoneman last week in midfield. We gave him some flowers, filling in a position that's not his natural one. I think even Grant's own mother would say that Hugo coming into the midfield, Hugo is a better midfielder than Grant. So
sure,
honestly, yeah, really exciting to see this. Like this to me is our kind of full strength 11, really. I think you could argue that maybe Zachary Haraval or maybe an Amos gets in there, but really excited about this. And I think the back four is interesting. I've been clamoring for it since I think we're almost at the 3-year anniversary of this podcast, like of me joining this podcast. And I think I've said the word back four since almost day one. So excited that like we are seeing a consistent use of it. And I think it really uses the squad that we have available really well. So really excited about it.
I definitely agree with you. I'm always a big fan of a back four, especially with a pressing lineup, and I think that's what we've kind of seen over these last few matches. And I would say that is a very good coaching switch from Kano and the crew to bring that on. I think that's something that a lot of fans have kind of looked for, and I think kind of based on the players we have and rotation that we have now, it really suits this squad and what the squad has.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at it, right, like with the team we have available, like now we have multiple people who can truly play as wingers. Like, we've seen, I think in like, we get to say this even more after last night, but the best out of Jose Quezero when he's playing kind of on this right wing, it's also where he plays for his country. We now have kind of multiple people who also can play on the wing. So we brought in Busy last year. Noah's always been able to play out there. Leo, who I'm sure we'll talk about this episode, has the ability to play out there. We have some depth with JJ, with Logan Dorsey, with Gogo Peters. And then in midfield, you have kind of 6 guys who can really play really well. So you have Pity Rodriguez and then Noah, who's kind of they're sharing time at that more attacking midfielder. And then you have 4, like I would say any 4 of these guys starting is a really good day, which is Hugo Baccarat, Clay Holstad, Amos Shapiro-Thompson, and Zachary Haribo. The problem with that too becomes when the double pivot there, when we've seen a lot of injuries and suspensions there, which really limited the depth there with, Grant having to jump in. I might almost want to see the other double pivot, Timmy and Andrew, jump in there at times, but I
was waiting for it.
Yeah, it's a good use of the lineup, I think. So really excited about this.
The people were a little confused though. Matt Jean says you've been saying back four. He thought you were always saying back door, but that's why that's why we keep things clean here at Tide Talk.
I don't even know how to respond. Yeah, we are a clean podcast. No one ever swears or says dirty things on this show. I'll tell you that much.
Never. The Petersons can attest to that.
Yeah.
The whole clan. But I know you had your next slide, what the lineup actually looked like. And Matt Hands very calling this one out as well.
I honestly don't have the chat open for my own sanity tonight. Oh. I'll pop it open in a second. But
no, I just meant like beforehand, like when it was announced, when it was released. Got
it. Yeah, I mean, just the thing that's always interesting is they put the lineup out, and I usually read from bottom to top. So who's in net? It's Koke, obviously, but you go up, and they were so close to getting this one right. And then I think around the midfield spot, the lineup graphic on TV just got out of whack, as it does. But so played out again exactly as it did last week, except for Hugo for Grant. And I think it worked out well, I would say.
For sure. Early on in this one, though, I did think that Lexington, had a bit they had a lot of the ball throughout this one, but they did have the ball in some dangerous areas and just couldn't connect. They played a couple good crosses in. We looked kind of content to sit back and let them play with the ball and make their mistakes. And then the counter started to ramp up and the press started to ramp up. But early on, I thought we could be in some trouble with the areas Lexington was getting into.
Yeah, I mean, I think through like about 5 to 8 minutes, I think I texted you guys and was like, wow, this is like a basketball game. Like it was just back and forth, back and forth. There was absolutely nothing happening in the middle of the pitch. It was just in both boxes. But I would say like of those, 10 to 15 minutes, it was Lexington had a couple chances that, you got a little nervous. I think there was one like really, really tight one on the back post that, if that guy
just
gets
a little overcooked on the cross.
Yeah. It was a game like that where, we'll talk more about us scoring, and obviously there were some fantastic goals, but this game is really one where, a couple feet here and there on both teams, and it's a different ballgame.
Yeah, I think that once we were able to get the press, and we've heard Kano talk time and time again about how much he wants to press, it really kind of changed the game, and we definitely saw that in the 21st minute with the first goal in this one that gave us the 1-0 lead. Who knows why that's not going to play for me. I was having trouble loading the slides. So, all right. So we might not have the video for this one, but Canva was trying to make me download everything beforehand, and I tried to plug it in as slides on the show. So no clips. Apologize for that one. But Aldair Sanchez opens his league account in the 21st minute with an absolute rocket. Just a piss missile. No other way to put it. I haven't seen if goal of the week contenders have come out, but I think this might flirt around that area.
Yeah, I mean, it all starts, and you can see from what we have available for this clip, it's the kind of a really hard press with both Aldair and Pity Rodriguez really going at the Lexington player here. They spring the ball. I think Pity ends up playing Aldair in, and then Aldair generally, like, I'm shocked the net stayed on the the goal post there, because absolutely put his foot through it. Very Clay Holtstead-esque, but really beautiful stuff from Aldair. I think, he actually has a couple goals over these past few games. And I think he's really, we've seen him play at wingback, and I think he's a very capable wingback, but I think this fullback role really suits him. And the fact that we see him kind of picking up places that are not just hugging the touchline, but also kind of getting towards the middle of the pitch around the edge of the 18 has been really great for him, because it can really leverage, I think the game that we all, at least I remember, was the Aldair whoa game, was the Phoenix game at the beginning of last season. And he was dropping in crosses with both feet, all over the pitch from all angles around the box. And I think his ability to not just hug the touchline, but be closer there and use all of his tools available to him is really gonna be fun.
I've been beating the Aldair drum since he first hopped on there. And Ryan, maybe you can try to pull up Canva so we can do this one justice and share your screen. But it just kept making me try to download the file, and that was not good. But I just really like the passion that he plays with. He's feisty, and now that he got on in the goal sheet in the Open Cup, and now taking this very advantageous shot here in the first half early, and opened up his account for RIFC in league play, I think it's only going to be further good things to come for him. He just plays so well, and defending might not be his strongest suit at times. He is a little guy, but he is if he's going forward, that is great. And I just really want to know what those damn green things were in the background in their stadium. It kind of reminded me of Super Mario tubes, or the water park thing where you go down and slide down looking like you're going down a toilet bowl. Just very, very funny stuff there. I don't know exactly what that was, but still just an absolute screamer from Aldair.
Yeah, Canva's also making me try to download everything I click, which is a really bad bug. Wow.
Yeah. So no highlights tonight, no highlight clips, but an unhappy baby somewhere in the Healy household for sure.
He heard about the AV issues. He's a real stickler for quality on this show.
That's it. And next we did see just 5 minutes later, RIFC double their lead with a great goal from Quazera, great build-up play into this one. Canva's definitely getting a 0 out of 10 on this one. And Andrew Milko says maybe they were Zelda style trees. I don't know what they were, but they were definitely something. A really great cross from Aldair on this one that eventually led to that great shot from Jojea. My biggest takeaway on this one was, what the hell was that keeper doing? That ball was doing nothing but rising. That ball was going up all the way, and he dropped to his knee to try to stop that one. It just made absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, this again was another goal that was created from our kind of counter press and the ability to attack from there. I think we were very happy to let Lexington have the ball in this one, and some really well worked passing to get the ball over to Jojea, and then not to discredit the goal. We love Jojea here. Again, he put the ball on the net so that the keeper has to do something. It just so happened that this keeper literally chucked this one in, which was great.
Yeah, and another point, after these two goals, and something Kano talked about when he was on with Tommy Quinlan on Channel 10, was game management and what happened after goals. And to see us score within 5 minutes and then, hold that 2-0 advantage till halftime, so another 20-plus minutes with stoppage time at the end of the first half, really good professional showing from this team. And hopefully that's a big page turned, and we're able to see more of that, because this would have been the RAFC of late where, we go out and score 2 worldies and then concede 2 before the half and go to the half 2-2. But a very professional and well done performance throughout the game, and particularly this first half to see this one out.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. It's always nice to get that first goal, but when you immediately add on, it just creates the pressure. It takes the momentum out of the stadium. They were booing Aldair for some, quite frankly, I think I know why they were booing him, but it's very unknown. The people of Lexington, Kentucky, do not know ball. I think they were mad at him about a PK shout or something, which was not near a PK shoot.
And it was him, and it was also every throw-in was just a chorus of boos, I felt like. So I don't know if it was just because they were predominantly taken on that left side by Aldair, and that's who got the brunt of it, or because of that PK shout. But I just found that odd. The loudest they cheered all night down in Lexington was booing Aldair and booing RAFC throw-ins. Yeah,
I want to be clear. If it was just booing every RAFC throw-in, honestly loved the idea. What I didn't love is that they were treating it like kind of a basketball game where anytime the ball was out of play, they had to play some sort of music to kind of keep people engaged, which was very strange. But again, these are the semantics of the show that you guys did not come here to see. But yeah, great to see us double the lead. Great from JJ, and great that the press continued to just give them problems.
For sure. So we'll take a look at first half stats in this one. 67% possession for Lexington to 33 for Rhode Island. Outshot them 8-1 with the sorry, my screen just went totally small. With the, was it 5 shots on target to 0?
Yeah, 5 shots on target to 0.
Chances each.
Yep. You got it.
89% passing accuracy, 78% for RIFC, 4 fouls to 7 and 2 corners apiece for this one. Like you mentioned, we were very content with letting them have the ball, and outside of Goodrum kind of being a dick and probably should have got at least a yellow card in the first half, in my opinion. They really did not threaten our goal much.
Yeah, no, they had a couple like half chances here and there, especially in the beginning, but especially once we went up, we were very happy for them to have the ball. And I have a theory about this at the kind of end of the show we'll talk about, but I think it was, again, a very professional performance where we just were giving them a ton of problems. I actually found it really weird how casual they kept trying to play out the back when our press was giving them absolute nightmares. It seemed like there was zero plan B from Lexington, and they just kept feeding into our press, which was just eating them alive. And then once they got it to the midfield, we were very happy for them to keep it there, because if it got into our box, like I think Frank had a great game, I think Giap had a great game, just clearing the ball. I think we had 40 clearances in this game. Like we just were mopping it up back there. So great. Honestly, like a very good game plan from RIFC. For
sure. And second half started, we saw pretty much exactly the same. We saw Lexington, with the lion's share of possession, RIFC sitting back, looking to counter, looking to press every time they played out of the back. And, like you mentioned, the game plan was definitely executed to a T. And, I think this was probably the best we've seen this press all season.
Oh, by far. And I mean, we talk a lot about the offense needing to gel with new players, but part of the offense and part of the like orchestration of the offense is pressing as well. And we've always like consistently been a team that presses pretty well, like ever since like game 1. I think it was one of the first things I wrote to you on my novels on Reddit. But it's been kind of a core tenet of Kano ball, and I think the team, them starting to gel with that and understanding the pressing triggers and things like that, especially with this modified lightly formation, I think is really nice.
Yeah, hopefully it can continue to go forward. We did see in the 67th minute, Leo Afonso finally open up his RIFC account, much to the chagrin of some robots out there online. Just a really nice low finish from Leo here. I thought it was a really good hold up play by JJ to leave it off, and Noah was able to nudge it onto Leo at the left edge of the box, and just a very well slotted home goal by Leo Afonso on this one. And hopefully it's the start of many. I've been calling for it in my score predictions on here for weeks. I've been saying I think today's the day Leo gets going, and finally he got one. And he's been putting in really good shifts, I think, overall, and had some really good creations, really good shots, and good to see him finally get in the back of the net.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's like 4th in the league on shots per
total
game.
Shots.
Yep. Yeah, total shots per game. I mean, his big problem has been putting it on net. And, to his credit, this was not an easy goal, not at all. So the fact that he was able to put this one on, hopefully it's one of those things like kind of like a basketball player when they're really cold, they just need like a free throw or something to kind of get themselves going. So now that he's seen one go in, hopefully he can kind of really continue. And honestly, hopefully Pity's right up there with players who are averaging a ton of shots per game, but hasn't netted one yet. So really think that if we can get the two of them going, it'll be really nice. But I think the funniest part of this is I think they credited Noah with an assist on this, and I wish we could show the video, because I don't know that I've watched like 100 times. I don't know that he even touches it, but I'm
pretty sure he got a foot on it, because the ball was played in aerially to JJ at the edge of the box, and he chests it down and kind of leaves it for Noah, who I think was the one that clipped it on, because they were both pretty central. You can actually see in this freeze frame we have, because the video won't play, JJ's there and Noah's tracking in behind, so it hits JJ, and Hans is saying it hit Noah's thigh. There definitely was something that made that ball kick wide left to Leo, who's, far out closer to the sideline at this point in the still frame. And, it definitely was affected by Noah and definitely got out there from Noah for Leo.
All right, I'm just making sure we're not counting assists like they used to count Russell Westbrook's triple doubles back in the day.
True.
But no, but hey, listen, anything that can help my guy Noah, all about it. So yeah, no, again, great finish by Leo. And I would say if you are like an RIFC player, staff member, front office person, connected to the team at all, I would say the second, if you're maybe in like a bad mood, I would say put on the second half, download the audio, get it from somewhere. If you need help, Tide Talk can help you out with that kind of shenanigans. And just
maybe
listen to the commentary. Just go for a walk down Blackstone or East Bay bike path. Just really go touch grass and listen to the way that the announcers were talking about you in the second half. There was mentions of 1980s Germany, 1990s Italy. I think some of the best teams of all time they were comparing you all to. So go boost that confidence, go get out there, touch some grass, and feel really good about what you all did last night, because it was quite the waxing.
Well, I know Timmy's been applying for a head glazer job at Krispy Kreme for quite some time now, and the broadcast might be in the running for that, of the glaze that was thrown at RIFC, but Kano specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of talk about Kano this week amongst RIFC socials. There was a infamous Reddit post out there, and people saying is a job really for him? One take that I read that was basically RIFC fans want this team to be like Louisville and Charleston in year 3. I think just isn't fully correct. I think we know it's going to take time to get there, at least the diehards do. But I think that after year 1 and winning the Eastern Conference Finals and getting all the way to the USL Championship warranted this fan base kind of hoping and wanting a home playoff game and challenging for that top 4 every year. And I think that's definitely a valid take, kind of based on what we saw after that first season. We saw what we saw last season during the regular season specifically. You can't discount that whole regular season hands. You do have to take that into effect because patterns occur and, go throughout coaches and players' tenures. But I do think that, that is a justifiable take, saying we wanted this team to challenge for a top 4. And, I will give credit. I will call out Kano, and we will call out, some of the players and coaching decisions when we see things that need to be called out. But, the adjustment made, sticking with that back 4, really ramping up the pressing was pretty impressive last night. And I think you have to give them flowers based on the way last season went and based on how this season has started.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I'm very, and I wrote this in the post I blogged about when David Pert had left the club, but I really want us to have really, really high standards for this club, both on and off the pitch. Do I think it's, be Louisville or be Charleston? Maybe not, but I think a lot of it is just making the best use of the talent available, putting having a full season of actual competitive soccer, not what we saw for a large portion of last year. You could argue most of it. So, at the end of the day, we're not here to talk about people's jobs or things like that, but, we will criticize when the criticism is worthy. But at the end of the day, last night worked out really well. And we will, continue to talk about this team every Sunday, 8:30, like and subscribe.
That's it. Our last freeze frame of the night. What? Oh no, you didn't even have that Lexington goal in there. But kind of a poured clearance. And guys kind of standing around watching, which we've seen time and time again. They did get it in the 84th minute. Was this more of a switch off moment for you, Ryan? And it was. We've seen it time and time again where a ball's not fully cleared and guys kind of hold that deep line and don't press out and don't mark up. It's kind of what my thoughts on it were. Yeah, I mean,
Louisville, Lexington weren't. That's if you're a Lexington fan, you probably hated that I just did that. Sorry.
Good for
Lexington, you. Yeah, I mean, they weren't bad on the night. I mean, we'll look at the stats for the full game. If you look at first half to second half, they were they had all the ball and they were getting they had one shot in the first half allegedly. Like I think they ended up with 14 at the end, so they were putting a lot of pressure on us the second half, which will happen when you're up 2-0 and then 3-0. But yeah, at the end of the day, like we finally kind of wilted under that pressure. I don't think it wasn't a game we controlled or tried to control via possession. So not surprising that the ball, just like the ball bounced our way pretty favorably a lot last night. It's not surprising that it kind of eventually went their way.
For sure. Timmy's got a good one in the chat too. We were defending on our box for so much of that second half. Goal was bound to come eventually. Not the end of the world. Would have loved to have seen the clean sheet. I think Koke deserved it. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about his performance. Just so many point blank saves. He had a nice, really, really nice one-on-one save as well. But I agree with Timmy. That goal was definitely coming at some point in the second half. Surprised it took as long as it did. Luckily, it was only that one and that late.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those games like again, a couple bounces of the ball differently, and we could be having a very different podcast. Again, we're doing a happy podcast tonight, folks, so I am gonna not go too heavy on that. But at 3-0, it happens again. I think I said we had 40-ish clearances last night. So again, it was really like they were deeply in our box, and
yeah, they were.
The minute I hit the box,
I saw you loading for that one.
But yeah, they were just like all around our area that we defend, and boy, oh boy, the pressure was mounting. So it makes sense that it would happen. Again, a lot of great defending, as people are calling out in the chat, from especially Frank and Giap. But yeah, unfortunately it happens. And yeah, as you said, I think Koke deserved the clean sheet, and so does the rest of the team.
I think we also have to mention, you talked about being deep in that box, how wet and slippery that box appeared to look on television. There were players falling on both teams. Actually, more so Louisville. It kind of reminded me of us last season when it looked like early on at Tidewater, more Rhode Island FC players were falling than opponents coming in. And there were just people hitting the turf all night long on this one. I don't know if it was too wet, whatever it was. It looked to be pretty good weather down there, but the conditions weren't ideal for Lexington players, specifically staying on their feet. You've got another great one loading.
I think that there was also a couple moments like when I think it was first half when Clay we had a really good press, and then we were breaking away and Clay actually fouled the guy because he
fell.
And I think it was still 0-0, and I was like, that is such a perfect encapsulation of what's happening to this team right now. Is we do the hard work, and then it's the final action we just can't get over the line because we slipped and fouled the guy. It was just I
had to watch that one a few times because I was like, he must have gotten tripped, but he didn't. He just lost his feet.
Yeah,
legs came out from under him and absolutely clipped the Lexington attacker.
Also, I don't know if we're going to have any specific moment to call it Clay, but the man was just absolutely everywhere last night. If you want to see a box-to-box midfield performance, look, Clay Holstead last night was picturesque there. So
yeah, so let's take a look at his full stat sheet. 90 minutes played, a 7.7 on FOTMOB, 22 of 29 passes, that's 76%. Created one chance, had 8 defensive contributions, 44 total touches, 1 touch in the opposition box, 3 out of 3 successful dribbles, 1 pass into the final third, 2 out of 3 accurate long balls. We mentioned the 8 defensive contributions, 4 tackles, 3 clearances, 2 headed clearances, 1 interception, 3 recoveries, won 7 of his 8 ground duels, won his only aerial duel, and only committed 1 foul. And that 1 foul we talked about with him slipping and taking it out. So just a typical Roy Kent, Clay Holstead, here, there, every fucking where performance last night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also again, we talked about the double pivot. Hugo, great having him back. I think this was his again. He seems to be growing into the season. I think we had he looked a little rough the first couple of games compared to what the standard he set last season. I think each week he seems to be progressing back to the player we remember kind of really dominating towards the end of last season.
No, it's a very good shout as well. So we'll take a look at the full-time stats for this one. Lexington with a 1.43 expected goals to a 0.96 from RIFC. 66%.
Yeah, guys, unfortunately, we have to give all the points back. It's just how it works. I'm sorry.
Possession for Lexington. They outshot us 14-12. We had the 5 on target to 8. 0 big chances and none. So do you want to talk about big chances now before we go into any further, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I'll address Matt Hands here. So yeah, I mean, we didn't have any big chances last night. That is not great for the long-term trajectory. Like, you want to see a team consistently creating big chances, which is why our expected goals was so low. When Aldair Sanchez goes borderline upper 90 from 24 yards out, like, that is not a big chance. When Jojea shoots at the keeper from basically the byline and he just throws it into the net himself, like, that is also not a big chance. And when Leo takes a shot from like the corner of the box and is able to bend around that keeper yet again, like, that is not a big chance. That is not like a goal that you should have a high probability to score. They were all three fantastic finishes from Rhode Island FC, and at the end of the day, like, scoring the goal is what matters. But those are not big chances at the end of the day, folks.
For sure. Timmy wants to know if Matt Hands wants to throw around XG and say we should have beat Detroit. Should we have actually lost this game?
I mean, Game State is a huge proponent of expected goals, folks. So, like, yes, Lexington racked up a ton of expected goals because they had a ton of shots in the second half because they were down 2 and 3-0. So there's a lot of Game State stuff here. Again, if Matt Hands needs a deep education on this, I'm happy to chit chat with them more. As a team, so Matt Hands says, as a fan of a team across the pond who consistently outperform their XG this season, I'm not very concerned. His team is currently floundering because they are coming back to earth because you cannot consistently shoot from the parking lot and score. That is why his team was underperforming XG. I'll happily comment on the Premier League on the show if I have to, folks. But yeah, so it's one of those ones where, like, again, this is a happy podcast. I want to be clear. But yeah, like, we did at the end of the day, like, anytime you score, that changes the game state, and that will change what happens on the pitch. So the fact that we were both 1 and 2-0 up from shots that, like, statistically aren't always don't have a high likelihood of going in, it changes the way that the other team's going to play. It changes the way that we play, and it changes our game plan. So at the end of the day, like, us really pressing the hell out of them and doing the work there allowed us to have the opportunity to score. That's what matters, and that is, I think, the big takeaway from this one.
For sure. Just to put a pin in the final stats on this one, 87% pass accuracy for Lexington, 75 for RI, 13 fouls Lexington, 11 RIFC, and they had 9 corners to R2. JJ Williams, FOTMOB man of the match, 8.3 rating with that 1 assist and a really talisman performance. I liked him testing the keeper long too, just kind of shooting from wherever. He did have that mentality of wanting to get on the goal sheet. Hold the play was great throughout this one, and hopefully we can see JJ play like this in many more games to come, because I think that press really complements his physicality and his style very well.
Yeah, I mean, he was the person who kept springing the press, and also, like, I think one thing we talked about, I think it was last episode, was like one very huge point like that we were able to progress ball and, like, really kill teams in the year one was that route one co-K to JJ. And I think last night was the first time this year we really saw that starting to pick up again. Like, JJ was both winning his battle with, I think it was Ordonez, who was from Louisville, but also, like, the players around him did a good job picking up those kind of second balls that occur when JJ is battling the center back for those long balls. So I think overall we did a much better job springing those counters, because then we get more chances, like, not with an entirely packed box like we see a lot, where, like, the ball is deflected or blocked, and, like, it becomes really hard for us to do anything. The other team can't get set. We actually can have, like, an advantage via man-to-man. So yeah, I think overall JJ had a really fantastic match. It's more, I mean, I know we talked a lot about JJ last episode, but this is much more like what we'd expect from him.
For sure. So we have your thoughts. We did RIFC in 3 and good, better, best for the first time solo this season. So that was good to have out there. So let's take a look at what everyone shared, and we'll start in the Defiance 1636 Discord. Scott from Wales, RIFC in 3 points finally. His good was goals finally. Better was excellent counters. Best, solid defense. Leo had 3 goals from 3 different goal scorers for his good. Better was smothering forward press and second level solidity throughout the first half. Best defending out on the wings. Epson, Adequan, with all their technical ability, couldn't get by Frank and Aldair. RIFC in 3, break and bridle. Love it. And I do love, and we have to give the RIFC admin some credit with that really cool video they had of the horse in the stable watching that Aldair goal. That was just chef's kiss.
Tremendously funny.
We also had Dave Audette with good scoring goals, better, much needed road win, and then parentheses or win in general. Best points in the standings. RFC in 3. Give me them points. All I can think of is Timmy's gif he uses, the give me that one. Chad M's good. The whole team looked great. Better was 3 goals from 3 different players. Best 3 much needed and much deserved points. RAFC in 3. Clay was everywhere in all caps. Andrew Milko's good was the offense. Better was the defense. Best the whole performance. RAFC in 3. Keep doing that. We also have Timmy had his player ratings blog come out today, and Matt Hands had his Riptide report come out last night. So if you haven't already, make sure you check those out. Natesky had RAFC in 3, first of many. Good, less than 20 shots to score. Very true. Better chemistry to pass to the open man. Best Vegas, now Lexington, all road wins. Moving on. Matt L's good was midfield getting healthier. Better, that absolute missile by Sanchez. Best, getting 3 points on the road. RAFC in 3, beat the Revs. Pawtucket J, RAFC in 3, we needed this. Good, Leo standing, leading the league in shot attempts and finally getting one. Better, Sanchez screamer. Best, it felt like we turned the corner. Thank you to everyone who wrote in the Discord. We'll head over to Twitter next, where we had Matt Hands, RAFC in 3. I don't even know if I can read this one, Ryan. It might take us to a whole new rating. Hands was right. Another victory lap for Matt Hands. His good was back four is working. Better, the Aldair Rocket. Best, Frank, period. No Darce, period. Cuban flag, Cuban flag, Cuban flag. And Andrew Quadros' RAFC in 3 was about fucking time. Certainly was. On Facebook, we had Chris Peterson with offense finally gelling. Nate Holloway had first of many wins, and Chris Peterson replied back with revolution ends Tuesday. I love that. That would be great to see. We got a ton on our Instagram, and it started with our friend. Then we played the clip. So let's actually play that again, because I loaded that one differently, so it'll work.
Hey, man, crack a cold one, man. Crack a cold one tonight.
So Jojea Quazera comments with crack a cold one, anchor, and a fist bump. Absolutely love it. Good stuff from Quazera. Andrew Quadros, eat your heart out, fella. We also have on Instagram Tommy Quinlan's RFC 3. I'm so happy. Terrace's was about damn time. The legendary 006, a complete game. Booth Hill Brewing, press equals points. The team had a very strong performance. Williams brought energy and a crowd with him all over the pitch. The press was fantastic at creating counter-attacking pressure, and obviously the goals were great to see. As we've been saying, this team has the talent. They just need to finish, and tonight they did. Nice W. His good was press-created offense. His better was Sanchez and Quazera's freaking laser beam goals, and his best big win on the road for the first 3 points of the season. So thank you to everyone who wrote in across our socials. Again, make sure you're following us on all of our social media accounts. Look for those posts after each and every match, and we'll share your takes live on air. So appreciate everyone who writes in each and every week. We also usually, use them with our episode titles. So have your take be the episode title, and we'll get going from there. But good stuff all around. In focus time, Ryan. You ready for it?
I'm cruising tonight. I would say, before we get to the in focus slides, there's some comments in the chat.
Smash that like button if you haven't already.
Also, definitely do that. And if you're new, please subscribe. But people are bringing up the Tampa Bay game last year. Early in the season, we got 3 absolute screamers of goals. I don't know what the XG was in that game, but I assume we lost it. So I think the big question for this team is is this a Tampa game, or is this signs of us really picking it back up? Because, this just can't be a false dawn. And I think, Tuesday is a great step to kind of show the progress against an MLS team. And then also whenever we play, I think it's Charleston next. I think it's a week between games somehow. I don't think there's a game next weekend or something like that. So either way, it's just this needs to be the start of something versus 3 screamers that went in and, oh shit, we're back to what we saw previously. So
actually, Ryan, we have Charleston on the Wednesday, the 22nd. So we have a week between the Revs game, and then we're back at it in that shit slum Trinity Health on Saturday, the 25th.
Oh yeah.
So okay. We do have the week off after the Revs match, but we also have a short week following that.
Yeah, so that's just a statement on. I saw some Tampa chat, and I agree and understand with that. I also have one other thing that's not in the slides that I have a question for you. So we heard that. So I think people have heard that I am a massive fan of Aaron Molloy, who is the defensive midfielder for Lexington. He used to be on Charleston. So there was reports that he was like very close to signing with Rhode Island before he signed with Charleston. So Kano is obviously a very clear admirer. One of the best players in the league, like someone who will probably always lead the league in like his FOTMOB or SofaScore rating. Do you think he actually makes it way easier for teams to game plan against them, whatever team he's on?
I could see that. My attacking defensive model as a coach is you always try to take out the other team's best talent. And for basketball, for me, that's playing a box one, that's playing a triangle and two, and really trying to isolate the other team's best players. And I think when it's a midfielder specifically, very easy to man mark a guy and really make his night very frustrating and keep that pressure up on him. And I think he's a guy that provides a lot of that service to Goodrum, and he was not able to do any of that. And Goodrum was a cock knock all night, like I mentioned earlier, and should have at least been booked, if not tossed. But I think he is a very good player who just could not get going. And I think all the credit for that is due to this RIFC pressure that we saw, and really kind of did not allow him any time on the ball. And that was good to see, because that's been a thing that we allow players enough time on the ball to create really good chances and get really good balls in. And luckily we did not see that very much at all last night. How about you?
And there's some people's point, like he was, I think, pretty solid, but like he's the type of player who runs the show, and like the way he plays almost like dictates the way his team plays. But so far, Kano has a very good record against teams he's in, even though those teams have been some of the best teams in the league. We don't know what Lexington's going to end up being. So it's like very interesting that like Kano loved this player, but also seems to be very clear about how to play him. And I think it actually does make sense. You just basically double him with the striker kind of pressing because he wants to drop deep and get the ball. So the striker presses, and then your number 10 kind of shadows him as well. And it makes it harder for him to maneuver. So I just think it's a very fascinating quirk with that one of the best players in the league. Also, like Kano kind of weirdly has his number and so his team's number. So not in the slides. I just thought that was fascinating. And shout out to Kano for that. That is, it's again, some of the best teams in the league. And I think he's shown a good tactical adjustments to make that happen. But so as we go,
I know this is a little over the place, but seeing the chat and Han said in the chat he bets Noah would start instead of Pity. Maybe Busy starts too in that Revs game. I did want to talk about Pity, and I know you kind of gave him. You said he played pretty well and then looked good early in this one, and he put a shot on target as well. But it looked like he wasn't pressing as much to try to get those shots off. And I think it was a much better performance from him, especially hitting the target, and that was something we called out big time last pod. And I did want those over toes, he definitely earned it. But I do think that we got to give Pity the flowers after that one, and it was a much more professional performance from him.
Yeah, I mean, he just said that there was one like counter that he took a shot from like the parking lot for some reason when he had like multiple players to pass to, which I was really surprised, because I think like he's been shooting a lot, which is fantastic, but he's also shown that he's a good facilitator. But I thought his pressing in this one was truly the thing that stood out. He ends up getting an assist out of it. So, he's doing a lot of great things. And I think, especially as we saw Leo as well, like, again, someone who's doing a lot of great things. Eventually these things pan out if you just keep applying that pressure. And as this offense continues to gel, like we've really seen this starting core up top start to play over and over and over again with each other. And that's how, they can really grow as a unit, understand each other better and be better. So I think there's a lot more to come from them, because we haven't even seen JJ score a league goal yet. And we know those will come.
True. In focus.
So quick one tonight, not going to go crazy, but so just like, what was that? This is slide one here. So last night we saw that RIFC had 34% possession. We average on the season so far 49%. We saw the team win 58% of their ground duels. We usually see them win 52. We saw 67% of their shots go on target. We usually see 39. And possession won in the final third, normally 3.6. I could not actually produce a number last night, but I'm going to say it was a lot, because boy, oh boy, was that press eating Lexington alive. So I think a very big adjustment in tactics. We were very happy for them to have the ball. We were crunching, really making the press work, and that was creating the opportunities where we scored. So again, this reminded me a lot of like not early, but kind of the best of 2024 RIFC. And I think it's interesting. I don't think we're going to continue to try to play this way. I wouldn't be shocked if we go back towards that 50% plus possession number that we've seen so far. But I think it's interesting that we were able to adjust, change the way we play in order to facilitate things. And again, yeah, it worked out last game. So I think this is just something to watch as the team grows tactically, as a team gels together, because there's a lot to come. And again, I always struggle with possession because like it's weird to say like I hope we have less possession, because it just means you like want the other team to have the ball. Kind of hard to say that way, but I'm very intrigued to see what Kano takes from this game, because I think there's a lot of different learnings and a lot of different things, especially on corners. I thought corners were very strange last night. We did like we did in swingers, out swingers, like we were kind of all over the place. So again, this team seems to be trying things, tweaking things, which I absolutely respect, and I am intrigued to see what they keep and what they throw away and what they bring in next time. So a lot more to come. And just at the end of the day, I think it's great. The headline here is nice to see that we are trying new stuff.
Yeah, definitely a model for future success. I think that's a big takeaway. If we can keep it up and keep that pressure, it's definitely worthy of it.
Cool. And this is the only other slide, folks. This rules. The team posted this picture from the locker room after. Like, this is just a lot of very happy, very shirtless men. And I'm excited for them. Also, I'm looking at the picture and also need to shout out that Amos Shapiro-Thompson's back, folks. He played about 20 or so minutes last night. Absolutely love that. One of the greatest guys you'll talk to. But yeah, overall, just love the vibes from this picture, and excited that we will continue to keep this rolling. As I said, this is a happy podcast, folks. We're not digging deep into XG tonight.
Matt Hand says this model isn't sustainable, though. I beg to differ. I think this was a huge bit of year one success, especially in that stretch run. I'd love to hear Hands try to justify this one in the chat.
Hands has me so lost on what he thinks about this game.
Oh man, not to try to doom it a little bit, but you mentioned that false dawn, and hopefully this is not a one-off. And contrary to popular belief by Matt Hands, you do need to string together more results like this. Him saying this model isn't sustainable, I assume he's talking about letting the other team have the ball and press and counterattack and look like that, I guess. Yeah, he's saying sitting back and conceding possession isn't going to grant long-term success. I think with this roster that we have, it certainly could. I think you see professional teams do this. You see teams do this all over. I think of Atletico Madrid comes to mind as a team who plays like this. Under Diego Simeone, like all the time. I think with this roster, the way it's constructed, this could be a long-term success model for this team. And when other teams aren't able to crack the tough defense that RAFC is, they struggle and trying things out of the box and different passes and things that don't work, and that's when RI can really attack on the counter and get going on the counter. It might not be the most enjoyable style to watch week in and week out, especially at home matches, but I do think there is definitely a key to success in there. And like Matt Hand says, if this model ends with us having more goals than the other team, I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit torn on this. Like, I actually agree with Hands a bit on the long term. Like, I think I for different reasons. Like, my bigger concern is like, number one, like possession is going to fluctuate every game, and with that, like the thing that concerns me about this performance was like we still didn't create any like big chances, any like really like clear shooting opportunities, things like that. So I think there's still a lot of work to do here. But
you might disagree if you read his last comment.
I already did. I'm not going to talk about that. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, like this is again work in progress. We won the game, and that's what we're gonna stick with on this show. But again, it's just is this Tampa last year, or is this the beginning of something different? And I think that's what the team has to show us week in and week out from here on out. We're still sitting towards the bottom of the league. This was our first league win. I think it's like, I think now, like, we were about to have our worst performance ever through 5 games. Now
we went through, Tyler Hatch tweeted this out yesterday. We went through our worst point total in our first 4 matches, but now after 5 matches, we're on our best point total after 5 matches. So statistics are all in the eye of the beholder on this one, and how you twist them, how you look at them. But one game difference makes a world of difference.
And I didn't put the spring sadness slide in here. So that's how you know we're doing something better, folks.
So I guess the last question before we wrap this one up, and, again, trying not to doom, but do want to talk about some of the, bigger issues with this team and the week we have going forward and what we have coming up next. You mentioned that false dawn. Do you see this as a springboard for this team, or do you kind of see this as a one-off? What's your gut tell you? I'm putting you on the spot.
I know you are. I don't want to say it out loud. I am worried that it's a one-off because I don't think anything we did last night is sustainable. I hope no one's listening at this point. I'm worried. Sorry. The one thing. Sorry. There was. Let me take a step back. There was a couple things that were sustainable. One, the press. I think the press was fantastic. 2 was a counterattack, and 3 was the way that we really cleared our lines, cleared the box, and 4 was I think the connection that Koke, JJ, and then the folks around JJ had. So there was progress there. Again, I don't think on offense we still showed an ability to create things that were consistently dangerous, but once we were like really near the box, I think, again, the transition and the press did a lot of really good things beforehand, but there were also a couple times we had a transition moment that looked so 2025 and 2026 RIFC, where like we got the ball and there's everyone standing there, and then there's just the other team gets back. So work in progress. I am nervous that this is a bit false, but I also think there are things that, again, it's all about what lessons do Kano and his staff take away in the team, and what do they continue to apply. I think that's the number one thing, that when they watch the film on this, they pick out the right things to continue, and they pick out and they continue to iterate and experiment on the others. That's the thing. So I think this is very much, we're kind of at one of those roads, like a crossroad, and it's really like, just keep the good stuff and learn. That's all I want.
That's it. We're back at it in just 2 days as the New England Revolution come to Tidewater to host RIFC, where to say, in the 3rd round of the U.S. Open Cup. It's supposed to be a beautiful day in Rhode Island, a lovely day for Rhode Island, in the 70s in this one. So if you have not picked up your lovely day for Rhode Island shirt, please come find us in M7 before the game. If you can't make it to M7, but you plan on being in, send me a DM, send any of the Tide Talk accounts a DM, and we can work on getting your shirt size in for you and meeting up with you at halftime or whatever it might be and get that delivered. But as we kind of talk about this one, put your score predictions in the chat. Interested to see how you guys think we'll take on the Revs in this round of 32 in the U.S. Open Cup. But we've got a beautiful day. We've got a team coming off some goals. We've looked pretty good in the Cup to start. How do you see this one playing out, Ryan? With the 8 days off, you'd have to imagine we're going to go pretty similar to what we saw last night in Lexington, maybe 1 or 2 rotations here or there. But I think we see kind of a best 11, if not, pretty damn close to it, to try to get out and get an MLS scalp in this round of the Open Cup.
I can't say this clearer. Kano is going to treat the game with the Revs like it is the U.S. U.S. Championship final, USL Championship final. Like, he is absolutely going to take this dead seriously. That is personal for him. It's something that would mean a lot for him. And also, again, we have 8 days off. So, I very much agree, unless someone is carrying something from this game, play the boys. They'll have plenty of time to recover. I think we're going hell to leather for this one, away at Centerville Bank Stadium. I tried to explain it to my mom. I had to explain that to my mom today, and it was very interesting.
It's odd. Yeah. Matt Leonard in the chat says, need a t-shirt. Send us a DM on socials. We'll get you squared away. And if anyone else wants the lovely shirt that Ryan's wearing and modeling for you guys, send us a DM. We'll make it happen. Whoa, we just switched to Tide Talk only fans on this one. Looks good. So let's take a look at some of the score predictions. Timmy says, kind of think we're going to knock off the Revs. That was my initial prediction. I actually thought we were going to lose this weekend and then beat the Revs. I thought that was going to be the trajectory of how things played out, winning a game not many people expected us to win. Timmy also follows up with 2-1. Good guys. FQB's got a 1-1 RIFC win in penalties. That would be something for sure. Derek says, going to snag a win on my birthday, 2-1. Happy birthday on Tuesday, Derek. Hopefully they can deliver and get you that. That would be good stuff. Pawtucket J also has a 2-1 us. The chat wants you to move that camera a little bit lower, Ryan. Sexy time, but we'll end it with this. I think we're gonna scrape this one. I think we're gonna get by 2-1, advance to the next round. We've got Sarah with a 1-0, Andrew with a 3-2, both for RAFC. How are you feeling? How do you see this one playing out, my friend?
So this is interesting. So last week we talked about Lexington, and I said 2-0 Lexington. Do I lean in to the reverse jinx?
I think you have to.
Yeah, so I'm going 2-0 Revs. I
like it. I like where your head's at. Matt Jean's got 2-0 RFC to trump you on that one. And Timmy says it. So please screenshot the screen right now, any one of the Tide Talk crew watching, so we have this photographic evidence. Timmy might pop the top if it's 3-2. Good grief. Good grief for anyone around him. I think that would be
Good grief for 116, I'll tell you that much.
True moral of the story. We even hear there might be a Matt Hand sighting in 116 on Tuesday night, which would be, I think, a pretty iconic moment in RFC young history at Tidewater.
This is very fun. I do have a ticket to the game. I don't know if I'm going to be there, but I bought a ticket.
Good. Hopefully we see there. Hopefully pretzels are open. Maybe a bigger crowd. I doubt they will be because it's a weeknight game, which is a damn shame. I will say my wife picked up the new pretzel place in Attleboro, Philly something or other pretzels. They do not hold a candle to the pretzels at Tidewater. I'll just say that. And
I kind of need someone like it really might like sway my decision of how hard I'm going to try to go to the game if the pretzel stand's open. Like if it's open, I might make a seriously concerted effort here. Got to play my card strategically right now, and that would really tilt me over the edge.
Well, you have a ticket. I have a parking pass. Maybe we can talk off screen and make this work.
I like it. Like where your head's at.
That's it. But want to thank everyone who's joined us and stayed with us all this time. If you haven't already, go ahead, smash that like button. Love that we're using the Louisville podcast trophy that we got for beating Lexington. Handsome John would appreciate that as well, for sure. And then we have 8 days off. So some good rest time for the boys, and, back at it with a tough week with Charleston and Hartford, and a 2-for-1 week to follow up the match with the Revs. So thank you again to everyone who joined us. We always appreciate you spending your Sunday nights with us, or listening on Monday morning, Tuesday morning, whatever it might be. But that'll wrap things up for this one. Remember, Tide Talk is more than just a podcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook for daily social media content. Click that link in this episode description to follow all of our accounts. I've been your host, Matt, for my good friend Ryan. Thanks again for joining. We'll see you next time. And as always, up the Tide.
Up the Tide.